Right now, as you're watching this, parts of Texas are underwater again. Governor Greg Abbott has declared a disaster across 59 counties. Flash flood warnings are active across Behar, Comal, and Gillespie counties. High water rescues are happening in Uvalde. Rivers that were dry a week ago are cresting at levels that trap cars and swallow roads whole. Texans have been told to prepare, evacuate, and stay off flooded roads. It's urgent, it's active, and it's frightening. But this isn't the first time Texas has bet everything on a piece of engineering to hold back water like this. And the last time a Texas city built something specifically to stop a flood like the one happening right now, it didn't hold, collapsed, and it took a piece of Austin down with it. This is the story of the dam that was supposed to save a city, and the flood that proved it wasn't enough. Subscribe, because by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why Texas keeps fighting the same battle over a century apart. In the 1890s, Austin, Texas had a problem it desperately wanted to solve: power. The city wanted to become an industrial hub, and industry needed electricity. So in 1893, Austin's city government made an enormous bet. They would dam the Colorado River, right at the edge of town, and use the reservoir behind it to generate hydroelectric power for the entire city. It was called the Austin Dam, sometimes the Great Granite Dam, because of the massive limestone and granite blocks used to build it. When it was completed, it created Lake McDonald, a reservoir stretching for miles behind the structure. For a growing Texas city trying to prove it belonged among America's modern industrial centers, this dam wasn't just infrastructure. It was a statement. The dam held back the water, powered the streetlights, powered the mills. For a few years, it worked exactly as promised. Every dam, like every building, is designed around a number: how much water it can hold back, and how much pressure the structure can take before it fails. The Austin Dam's engineers built for the rainfall they knew. But Central Texas has always been flash flood country. The same geography, the same terrain, the same weather patterns that are driving the emergency happening across the state right now. Intense, fast, overwhelming rain events aren't new to this region. They're the defining risk of it. In April 1900, that risk arrived. Heavy rains upstream sent the Colorado River surging toward the dam far beyond anything its designers had accounted for. Water rose behind the structure until the lake was more than 11 feet above the dam's crest. Pressure the granite and limestone were never built to hold. On the morning of April 7, 1900, observers watched the unthinkable happen in real time. At roughly 11:20 a.m., witnesses at multiple points along the dam agreed on what they saw. The structure gave way at a point about 300 feet from its eastern end. Not a slow leak. Not a controlled failure. The mad current, as one account described it, simply pushed its way through the structure, and two enormous sections of the dam, each roughly 250 feet long, were shoved bodily out of position by the force of the water behind them. The water that had been held back for years was suddenly free, and it surged directly toward the powerhouse at the base of the dam, where employees were working. The flood crushed in windows on the west side of the building at floor level. It flooded the lower stories almost instantly. 5 employees and 3 young boys who had been nearby were caught in the surge and drowned. 2 workers survived only by climbing out through a narrow belt hole in the dynamo room, a gap barely large enough for a person to fit through, in the middle of a building filling with water. In a matter of minutes, Austin's massive bet on modern infrastructure was in pieces at the bottom of the Colorado River, and so were several of the people who worked inside it. The failure didn't just kill people. It gutted the city's power supply. With the dam destroyed and Lake McDonald drained, Austin was left without reliable electricity for months. The industrial future the city had bet on was, quite literally, washed away in one morning. It would take decades and several more attempts before Austin successfully built lasting flood and power infrastructure on the Colorado River. The lesson embedded in the wreckage of the Great Granite Dam was simple, and it's the same lesson structural engineers still teach today. A structure built for the water you expect is not the same as a structure built for the water that actually comes. Central Texas never stopped being flash flood country. If anything, the risk has only grown as more people, more roads, and more infrastructure have been built across the same watersheds that turned deadly in 1900. Just last July, in 2025, flash flooding along the Guadalupe River in the Texas Hill Country killed over 130 people in a single night, one of the deadliest flash floods in modern American history. And right now, as this video is being made, the state is under another disaster declaration, with a level 4 out of 4 flood threat across south-central Texas and up to a foot of rain forecast in the days ahead. Texas has spent over a century building dams, levees, and reservoirs specifically to prevent another Austin Dam. And by and large, that infrastructure has done its job. But Texas Observer investigations have found that in major flood events, including Hurricane Harvey in 2017, dozens of smaller, aging dams across the state have overtopped, breached, or failed outright, many of them decades old, underfunded, and inspected far less rigorously than the massive dams everyone assumes are the real risk. The Austin Dam was a warning about what happens when engineering underestimates water. Over 100 years later, Texas is still receiving that same warning, one flood at a time. The Austin Dam was supposed to be the answer, proof that a modern city could control its river instead of being controlled by it. For a few years, it was. And then one morning in April, the river reminded everyone exactly how much weight that promise could actually hold. As Texas faces another flood emergency right now, the question underneath every evacuation order and every disaster declaration isn't just, how much rain is coming? It's the same question that sat, unanswered, underneath the Austin Dam in 1900. How much is this infrastructure actually built to survive? And what happens the day it isn't enough? Subscribe for more engineering breakdown stories like this one. This is Deadweight.